There is a moment, and you already know the one I mean, where the noise stops. Not because anything changed, but because something inside you finally, quietly, gave up pretending. Picture the agora at midday. Rome in its full, ugly roar. Merchants screaming over the price of olive oil, children darting between sandaled feet, the smell of sweat and fish sauce baking in the sun. A legionnaire pushes through the crowd in full armor, his iron greaves clicking on the stone, eyes straight ahead. He has somewhere to be. He looks certain. He looks like a man with a purpose. Now look at the man sitting on the steps of the fountain. He is not moving. The crowd parts around him like water around a rock. He has been sitting there long enough that the shadow has shifted across the marble. In his hands is a piece of parchment, but he stopped reading it an hour ago. He is staring at the dust between his feet. That man is not a stranger. That man is you. Right now, as you listen to this, you are losing something you cannot name yet. Time. Ground. A version of yourself that is still waiting on you to come back. You have been busy. You have been surviving. You have been telling yourself that next month, next season, when things settle, you will fix it. You will get serious. You will make the move you have been delaying since 2 winters ago. But the months kept going, and you kept sitting on the steps. What is that thought at the back of your mind right now? The one you turned on this video to drown out. The one that shows up at 2 in the morning when the phone is dark and the room is quiet, and there is nothing left to scroll through? You know what I mean. You have been living beside that thought for months, maybe years. This video is about that thought, not to comfort it, not to explain it away with soft words and warm advice, to name it, and then to end it. In the next 45 minutes, I am going to hand you something that took the greatest minds of the ancient world an entire lifetime to forge. Not theory, not philosophy wrapped in silk. Hard, field-tested wisdom from men who led armies, buried children, lost everything, and still chose to get up. I am going to show you exactly how to stop hemorrhaging your one life on patterns you never chose, habits you never questioned, and a version of yourself that no longer serves you. But first, you have to do one thing. You have to admit that you have been losing, not failing. Losing. There is a difference. Failing means you tried and it did not work. Losing means you have been playing the wrong game entirely, and some part of you has known it for a long time. Before we go any further, I want you to pause. Right now, go to the comment section and write this. I stopped pretending today. Write it. Own it. Every like on that comment is someone standing beside you, making the same decision at the same moment. You are not doing this alone, but you are the only one who can do it for yourself. The man on the fountain steps, he eventually stood up. Not because someone saved him, not because the crowd cheered. He stood up because he finally stopped watching his life like it was happening to someone else and decided to become someone who acts. That is where we begin. Because the day you realize you have been losing is not the worst day of your life. It is the first day of the only one that matters. The trap. Why smart people still waste a decade. Pay close attention to this. It will save you years. You admitted it. You said the words. You wrote them down, maybe for the first time in your life. And now your brain is doing something very predictable, very dangerous. It is telling you that awareness is enough. It is not. Picture a ship. Not a clean ship with white sails and a fresh crew. A storm-battered explorer's vessel somewhere in the North Atlantic, around 1500. The wood is swollen with salt water. The ropes are fraying. 3 men died in the last squall, and the rest are so exhausted they can barely hold the wheel. The captain's name is Diego. He has been at sea for 11 months. He knows, intellectually, that they are off course. He has known it for weeks. The stars told him. The currents told him. His own gut told him, every morning, when he looked at the horizon and felt that cold, hollow feeling behind his ribs. But Diego did something smart people do all the time. He kept sailing, not because he thought the course was right, but because stopping, turning, admitting the full weight of what needed to change, that felt more terrifying than the wrong direction. The ocean did not care about Diego's intelligence. It did not care about his experience, his charts, his 12 years of navigation. It only cared about what he actually did with the wheel. This is the trap, not ignorance. Ignorance is easy to fix. You just learn. The trap is something far more vicious. It is the gap between knowing and doing. And smart people fall into it harder than anyone else, because smart people are extraordinarily good at one specific skill: justifying the current course. You tell yourself you are gathering information. You tell yourself the timing is not right. You tell yourself you are being strategic, patient, methodical. You use words like planning and preparation and not rushing into things. But here is the part nobody talks about. Every one of those words can be true, and every one of them can be a lie at the exact same time. Seneca saw this clearly. He wrote, and I want you to hear every word of this: "It is not that I am bold enough to promise myself much from the fortune. I am talking about what can be done. The problem is not capability. It is that we postpone living." Read that again without moving your eyes past it. We postpone living, not because we are lazy, not because we are broken, but because the act of truly starting, truly committing, truly saying this is the direction and I am not looking back. That act requires you to grieve every other direction you will not take, every other version of yourself you will not become. And grief, even small grief, feels like dying. So you stay in the planning phase. It is warm there. It is safe. And a decade goes by. Back on that ship, Diego eventually made port. But it was not his port. It was a coastline he did not recognize, a territory he had not charted, a place that would never make him famous because he never documented it, never claimed it, never told anyone where it was. He died with the knowledge of what he had found, and none of the courage to name it. How many things do you already know, right now, sitting where you are? How many changes have you already identified, already planned, already written in a notebook that lives in a drawer? That drawer, you know exactly what is in it. Now here is where most people completely fall apart. They hear all of this, and they think the answer is urgency. Move fast. Act now. Stop thinking. That is not what I am telling you. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and had every reason to feel trapped, said this: "First, say to yourself what you would be. Then do what you have to do. First, say it. Name it with your own mouth, in your own voice, with the weight of someone who means it. Then act. Not both at once. Not action without direction. Not clarity without movement. The sequence matters, because if you skip the first step, you will run hard in a circle and end up back at that drawer. Here is what you do. Tonight. Not someday. Tonight. Before you sleep, you open something you can write on. A notebook, a phone, a scrap of paper torn from a bag. It does not matter what it looks like. You write one sentence. 1. It starts with the words, "The direction I have been avoiding is." And you finish it, honestly, without softening it, without qualifying it with "but," or "maybe," or "it's complicated." You write the name of the direction. Then you put the pen down. You do not plan. You do not make a list. You just name it. Because Diego's tragedy was not that he went off course. It was that he knew and kept sailing and never once said the words out loud. You are smarter than you think. And that is exactly what has been working against you. But knowing the trap exists is not the same as escaping it. Because there is something even more dangerous waiting on the other side of that page. Something that will make complete sense to your brain and quietly eat the next decade anyway. The shift. What the Stoics knew that nobody told you. Pay close attention to this. It will save you years. You already know something is wrong. You have known for a while. It is not a dramatic realization. It is quieter than that. It is the feeling that sits in your chest at 2 a.m. when the city outside is soaked in rain and the neon from the convenience store across the street bleeds pink across your ceiling. And you are lying there completely still, completely awake, completely unable to name what is missing. You reach for your phone, not because anyone messaged you, because the silence has teeth. That is where most people live, right there, in that gap between knowing something needs to change and actually changing it. Not suffering loudly, just drifting, quietly, efficiently, with a full calendar and an empty chest. Here is what the Stoics understood that nobody put on a motivational poster. The problem is not that you lack information. You have more information than any human being in history. The problem is not that you lack options. The options are everywhere, infinite, paralyzing. The problem is not even that you lack motivation. You have bursts of it. Every Sunday evening, every January 1st. The problem is that you have been trying to change your life from the outside in. His name was Arjun, mid-30s, software engineer. He lived in a high-rise apartment in Singapore, 42nd floor, glass walls that looked out over the whole glittering city below. He had a good salary, a gym membership he used twice a month, a LinkedIn profile that made people from his hometown write to him saying they were proud. Every morning, at 6:47 a.m., he sat in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Central Expressway. The radio played the same headlines it played yesterday. His hands gripped the steering wheel hard enough that his knuckles went pale. And every morning, he told himself the same thing. Next quarter, after this project, when things slowed down, he came home at 8 p.m. to an apartment that was clean because he was never there to mess it up. He sat in front of the blue glow of his monitor, not working anymore, not resting either, just scrolling. An algorithm that knew he was tired fed him content calibrated to keep him numb. Real estate he could not afford. Fitness accounts with men who looked like they had infinite time. Travel photos from places he saved to a folder he never opened. He was not unhappy, exactly. He just felt like he was watching his own life through a window, present in the room, absent from the moment. One night, around 3 a.m., the screen finally went dark from inactivity. And in that dark glass, he saw his own face looking back at him. He did not recognize it, not in a dramatic way. He recognized his own features, but the expression, the vacancy behind the eyes, that he did not know. He sat with it. He did not reach for the phone. For the first time in what felt like years, he just sat there, in the quiet, with himself. But here is the part nobody talks about. That moment, the 3 a.m. stillness, the dark reflection, that is not a breakdown. That is a doorway. The Stoics called it turning your attention inward. Not therapy, not meditation as a trend, just the brutal act of stopping the outward noise long enough to hear what is actually true. Marcus Aurelius wrote it plainly. He wrote it as a reminder to himself, not a lecture to anyone else. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Read that again slowly. Not the first part. Most people stop at the first part. Read the second part. Realize this. It is a command. It requires something from you. The strength does not arrive until after the realization. Not before. After. Arjun did not download an app that night. He did not sign up for a course. He did not make a 5-year plan on a spreadsheet. He asked himself one question. A simple, brutal, honest question. What am I actually doing? Not what am I supposed to be doing? Not what does my resume say I am doing? What am I actually doing with the actual hours of my actual life? The answer came fast, and it was quiet, and it was devastating, and it was the first true thing he had thought in a long time. Now pay attention. This is the real lesson. The shift the Stoics knew about is not a change of circumstances. It is a change of position, where you are standing when you look at your life. Most people stand inside the chaos, looking outward, asking, why is everything so hard? They look at the traffic, the boss, the economy, the algorithm, the weather, the timing, the luck. The Stoics stood somewhere else entirely. They stood inside their own mind, looking at the mind itself, asking, what am I doing with what I have been given? Epictetus said it without softening it. He said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That is not a passive idea. It is a violent one, because it removes every excuse you have ever used. Every, but you do not understand my situation. Every, if only things were different. It cuts through all of it with a single clean motion. You react, decide. That is where the power lives. Not in the raise you have not received. Not in the apology you are still waiting for. Not in the circumstances arranging themselves into something more convenient. The shift is the moment you stop negotiating with the outside world and start commanding the inside one. Arjun told me he made one change after that night. One small, unsexy, invisible change. Every morning, before he picked up his phone, before the traffic and the headlines and the algorithm, he sat for 5 minutes with nothing. No input. Just the early light coming through those glass walls and the city waking up 42 floors below, and the question, what do I control today? Not what do I hope happens. Not what do I fear. What do I control? He answered it honestly. Every day? Some days the list was very short. That was fine. Short and real was better than long and imagined. 6 months later, the circumstances of his life looked almost identical from the outside. Same city, same job, same commute. But the man inside the car was different. His hands did not grip the wheel anymore. Here is what you do. Not someday. Now. Tonight. Before the phone. Before the scroll. Before the algorithm opens its mouth and fills the silence for you. You ask yourself that question. The same one. Plain and undecorated. What do I actually control today? Write it down. The honest list. Not the wishful list. The real one. What genuinely lives inside your hands. Your words. Your choices. What actually belongs to you. And look at it. Really look. Because everything outside that list, the opinions, the outcomes, the timing, the weather, the other person's reaction, you can release it. Not because it does not matter, but because holding it is exactly what is making you so tired. That is the shift. That is what the Stoics knew. And it sounds simple. It sounds almost too small for the size of the suffering. But the most powerful thing in your life right now is not a strategy. It is a new place to stand. Now that you understand this, the question is not whether you believe it. You do. Some part of you already knew it before I said it. The question is whether you are willing to use it when the moment actually arrives. And that moment, the one that tests everything, is closer than you think. Weapon 1, the deathbed audit, burning away what doesn't matter. Pay close attention to this. It will save you years, not years of effort, years of going in the wrong direction entirely. There is a thought experiment the Stoics used, not a gentle one, not the kind you do over tea with soft music playing. It was more like a blade. Imagine you are old. The body has done what bodies do. The light is going. And in those last hours or days or whatever time you have left, you look back, not forward, back. Now ask yourself this, right now, in this moment. What are you going to wish you had cared less about? Not more, less. Picture Rome, not the marble Rome of paintings, clean and bright. The real Rome. The Forum Romanum on a Tuesday morning, merchants shouting over each other, the air thick with the smell of fish from the Tiber, smoke from 100 cooking fires, animals being led through narrow streets, dung and spice and sweat all mixed together. A man named Cato walked through it every day. He was not the most powerful man in Rome. He was not even close. But senators feared him. Not his army, not his wealth, his indifference. He had done the audit. He had sat with himself, long before the end, and asked the question. He had burned away the noise. And what was left, the thing he chose to protect, was not reputation or comfort or the applause of crowds. It was his word, his judgment, the line he would not cross. That was it. That was the whole list. And because of that clarity, he could walk through the loudest, most chaotic city on earth and not be moved by any of it. He knew what was his. Here is what nobody talks about. Most people do not fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they are disciplined about the wrong things. They are spending enormous energy, years of it, protecting things that will not matter when the light is going. The approval of someone they have not spoken to in 3 years. The opinion of colleagues who will not remember their name in a decade. The accumulation of things that fill a room, but not a life. Seneca saw it. He wrote it plainly. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Read that again. Not short. Wasted. He was not talking about laziness. He was talking about misdirection. He was talking about a man who spends 30 years chasing a version of success that was never his to begin with, built by someone else's voice in his head. A parent, a culture, a marketplace that profits from his insecurity. You know what I am talking about. You have felt it. That low, tired feeling at the end of a day where you did everything and none of it felt like yours. That is the symptom. The deathbed audit is the cure. But here is the part that makes people flinch. The audit does not just show you what to let go of. It shows you what you have been avoiding. Because sometimes what matters most is the thing you have been putting off longest. The conversation, the work, the decision, the thing that keeps showing up in the quiet, the one your noise machine is there to drown out. In the candlelit schools of Athens, under the olive trees with the salt wind coming off the Aegean, Epictetus taught men who had everything. Wealthy men, protected men, men with every comfort a civilization could provide. And he would ask them the same thing, again and again. Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. What that means is this: you are suffering, not because your life is hard, but because you keep fighting for a version of your life that does not exist. You are spending everything protecting an image, a plan, a picture of what it was supposed to look like. And meanwhile, the real thing, the actual life available to you, is sitting right there, uncollected. Most people stop here. Do not be most people, because knowing this is not enough. You have to do it. So here is the action. Specific. No room for excuses. Tonight, before you open anything on your phone, before the algorithm decides what your brain will be thinking about for the next 4 hours, you do this. You take a piece of paper, not an app, paper. You draw 2 columns. On the left, you write, things I am currently spending energy on. Every worry, every obligation, everything you are chasing, protecting, or managing. The relationship tension, the career anxiety, the comparison, the grudge, the financial fear, the performance you are putting on for people who are barely watching. All of it. On the right, you write one question at the top. Will this matter on the last day? Not tomorrow. Not next year. The last day. And you go through the left column, line by line, and you move only the things that survive that question to the right. What you will find is that the right column is very short. Short is the point. Short means you finally know what you are actually protecting. Short means you can stop bleeding energy on everything else. Short means you are no longer being pulled in 50 directions by 50 things that were never yours to carry. A Roman general going into battle does not carry his whole house on his back. He carries what he needs to win. You need to know what you need to win. Do the audit. Tonight, the honest version, not the version that makes you feel good, the version that tells you the truth. Because the most dangerous thing in your life right now is not failure. It is spending another year, another decade, fighting hard for things that will not survive that final question. But knowing what matters is only half the battle. Because there is something even more dangerous waiting, the invisible force that will pull you right back into everything you just burned away the moment you close this screen. Weapon 2, the comfort poison. How safety is slowly killing your years. That invisible force has a name, and you already know it. You have felt it. You have given into it. Probably this week. Comfort. Not the comfort of rest after hard work. Not the stillness of a soldier who has earned his sleep. Something else. Something quieter and far more deadly. The comfort that whispers, not today. The comfort that says, you are fine where you are. The comfort that makes a cage feel like a home because the cage has soft walls. Now here is where most people completely fall apart. Picture the city of Capua, southern Italy, 216 BC. Hannibal has just crushed the Roman army at Cannae. 60,000 Roman soldiers dead in a single afternoon. The ground was so thick with bodies that survivors climbed over the fallen to breathe. The screaming had stopped. The dust had settled. And Hannibal, the most dangerous military mind alive, stood at the edge of the greatest victory the ancient world had ever seen. Rome was 3 days' march away, undefended, terrified. The gates might as well have been open, and Hannibal stopped. He marched his army into Capua instead, a wealthy city with warm bathhouses, full granaries, wine in every street, and beds softer than any soldier had slept in for 3 years of brutal campaign. His generals called it rest. They called it recovery. They called it earned. The Romans called it the miracle of Capua, because Hannibal never took Rome. His army, undefeated on every battlefield, rotted from the inside over the next few years. Not from Roman spears, from comfort, from ease, from the slow, silent erosion of men who stopped being tested. Soldiers who had survived mountain crossings in winter snow, who had driven war elephants through river rapids, who had outthought and outfought every Roman general sent against them. Those same men were undone by warm beds and cheap wine. The Romans even had a phrase for it. Capua destroyed Hannibal's army more than Cannae destroyed ours. That is the poison. Now ask yourself something honest. Not comfortable. Honest. What is your Capua? Is it the job that pays enough to keep you quiet, but not enough to make you feel alive? Is it the relationship you stay in because leaving feels worse than staying numb? Is it the routine, the same coffee, the same commute, the same gray Tuesday bleeding into another gray Tuesday, that you call stability but feel in your gut is something closer to surrender? Your shoulders. Feel them right now. That weight you have been carrying. Is it the weight of a hard fight you are winning? Or is it the weight of comfort you are slowly drowning under? Because those two things feel almost identical from the inside, until they do not. Seneca saw this. He said it plainly, the way only a man who lived inside the courts of power and also faced a death sentence could say it. It is not that I am brave enough to seek danger, but that I have learned that the softest roads lead to the worst destinations. Read that slowly. The softest road, the one with no friction, no resistance, no moment where you must prove something to yourself. That road does not take you somewhere safe. It takes you to the worst destination of all, which is the end of your life having never found out what you were actually capable of. But here is the part nobody talks about. Comfort does not feel like a trap when you are inside it. It feels like relief. It feels like you finally exhaled. It feels like you did the hard work and now you deserve to rest. And maybe, for a season you do. The problem is that comfort has no alarm. It does not tap you on the shoulder after 6 months and say, all right, time to move again. It just keeps you there, warm, still, shrinking. A Roman legionnaire knew that the moment his body stopped being tested, it started dying. Not dramatically, slowly, the grip weakening, the eyes softening, the instincts blurring. They did not wait for danger to remind them. They trained when there was no enemy. They marched when there was no battle. They kept the blade sharp when there was no war. Because they understood something you need to understand right now. The body and the mind are the same. They grow toward pressure. They decay toward ease. This is not permission to destroy yourself. This is not a call to make your life harder for the sake of pain. The Stoics were not masochists. They were engineers. They understood the precise difference between useful resistance and pointless suffering. Epictetus said it with the clarity of a man who had been a slave and had nothing left to lose from telling the truth. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. What he means is this: stop fighting reality. Stop trying to engineer your life into a permanent state of ease. The discomfort is not the enemy. The discomfort is the road. The discomfort is where you find out who you actually are beneath all the performance. If this is landing somewhere real right now, do one thing for me. Hit subscribe. Not for me. For the version of you that needs to hear this again next week when comfort starts whispering again. I share this kind of reminder every single week. Now, the action. Concrete. No room to escape it. Tonight, after this is done, I want you to write down one answer to this question. What is the one area of your life where you know you have been choosing the soft road? Not the one you can explain away. Not the one with good reasons. The one that, when you sit with it in silence, in the quiet after the screen goes dark, your gut already knows the answer before your mind starts defending it. Write it down. One sentence. No more. Then right below it, what would a harder version of me do here? Not impossible. Not reckless. Just harder. Just more honest. Just the version of you that stops letting comfort make the decisions. Because the year is moving. Right now, whether you are growing into it or softening inside it, the year does not care. The days do not wait. Hannibal had Rome within reach. He chose Capua, and he never got another chance. You are looking at Rome right now, and you are standing at the edge of a decision that looks like rest but costs you everything. Do not choose Capua, but the comfort trap is only one blade of the knife. Because there is something even more dangerous waiting, something that does not wear the face of ease at all. It wears the face of effort. It looks like progress. It feels like momentum. And it will burn your best years down to nothing if you cannot see it for what it is. Weapon 3. The approval debt. Whose life are you actually living? It looks like effort. It feels like momentum. But look closer at what you are actually moving toward. Picture this. The year is 1347. A monastery outside Florence. The candles are burning low, 3 of them left on the iron holder, wax pooling on the stone floor below. A young monk named Benedetto sits at his desk. His back hurts. His fingers are stained black from hours of copying text. Outside, the rain hammers the walls like it has a grudge. He has been at this desk for 11 years. He became a monk because his father wanted it. His father, a cloth merchant with soft hands and hard opinions, had pointed at the church and said, "This is where men like us find honor." So Benedetto came. He shaved his head. He took his vows. He learned to copy words he did not believe in a language he did not love, in a life that felt, every single morning, like wearing another man's coat. Nobody ever asked Benedetto what he wanted. Nobody had to. He had given them the answer before they even formed the question. He had spent 11 years paying a debt nobody asked him to take on. That is the approval debt, not a metaphor. An actual debt, with compound interest, that you are paying right now, possibly without knowing it. Here's how it works. Every time you make a choice based on what someone else will think of you, you borrow a piece of your life and hand it to them. Every promotion you chased to impress a parent. Every relationship you stayed in because leaving would look weak. Every dream you buried because the people around your dinner table would have laughed or gone silent, which is worse than laughing. You borrowed the decision from yourself and gave it to them, and the debt accumulates. Now stop. Right here. Ask yourself something. Whose voice do you hear when you are about to make a real decision? Not the easy ones. Not what to eat. The real ones. The ones about your work, your relationships, your direction. Whose face appears? Your father's. Your mother's. An old teacher. A group of people whose approval you stopped needing years ago, but whose imaginary verdict still runs in the background like a program you forgot to close. That face. That voice. That is the creditor. And you are paying them every single day. Epictetus said it plainly. And Epictetus knew something about losing a life to someone else's authority, because he was a slave before he was a philosopher. He said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things." Read that slowly. Be content, not proud, not performing. Content, quietly, firmly, unbothered. He was not telling you to be reckless. He was telling you that the price of other people's approval is your actual path. You cannot have both. You must choose which currency you spend. And most people choose approval without ever admitting they made a choice at all. But here is the part nobody talks about. The approval debt does not feel like weakness. That is why it kills so many lives quietly. It feels like responsibility. It feels like being a good son, a good employee, a good neighbor. It wears the costume of virtue. You tell yourself, "I am doing this for the family. I am being realistic. I am not being selfish." And underneath all of that language, the truth is simpler and harder. You are afraid of their face when you disappoint them. That is it. That is the whole thing. Back to Benedetto. On a Tuesday night in November, one of the older monks died at his desk, just slumped forward over a manuscript he had been copying for 7 months. The other monks lifted him gently, carried him out, laid him in the chapel. Benedetto stood in the doorway and watched. And something cracked open in him, not dramatically, not with a vision or a sign from heaven, but quietly, like a thin crack in old stone. He thought, that man died copying someone else's words and someone else's language for someone else's God. He thought, I am 32 years old. He thought, whose permission am I waiting for? He left before spring, not with anger, without drama. He walked out of the monastery in the early morning, the air still cold and wet, and he went to find the kind of work that felt, for the first time, like his. Not his father's honor. His. Marcus Aurelius wrote this. In the private journal he never intended anyone to read. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Read that again. Sit with the weight of it. You love yourself more than anyone else loves you. And yet you hand the steering wheel to people who are busy worrying about their own steering wheel. You orbit their opinions like they are the sun. They do not even know you are in the sky. That is not community. That is not loyalty. That is debt. Invisible, expensive, and it costs you decades if you do not name it. Now, the action. No softening here. Tonight, before the screen goes dark, I want you to write down the name of the person whose approval you are secretly living for. Not a bad person, necessarily. Maybe someone who loves you, but someone whose imagined reaction is shaping your actual choices right now. Write the name. One name. Then write one decision you have delayed or avoided because of that imagined reaction. Then write this single question underneath it. If that person had already told me they were proud of me no matter what would I do differently? That answer, that is the direction. That is the life sitting underneath the debt. You are not looking for permission to be reckless. You are looking for the moment you stop waiting for a courtroom that will never open, a verdict that will never fully satisfy, a creditor who does not even know they hold your note. Pay yourself back. Start with one decision. Because when you begin to clear that debt, something shifts, something in how you carry yourself, something in the quality of your silence. But there is one more thing waiting, and it is the quietest of all three weapons, the one that does not announce itself, the one that has already been working on you for years, possibly since you were a child, shaping what you believe you deserve. This one does not come from other people. It comes from you, and that makes it the most dangerous of all. Weapon 4. The grief loop. Why you keep reliving what you can't change. Pay close attention to this. It will save you years. There is a room inside you that you keep walking back into. You did not build it on purpose, but you return to it, night after night. Screen glow carving shadows across your face at 2 a.m., the rain tapping against the window of your apartment while the city hums its indifferent noise below. You return to that room and you replay the same moment, the same conversation, the same decision, the same loss. Maybe it was a relationship that ended wrong. Maybe it was a door that closed before you were ready. Maybe it was something you said or did not say at a moment that mattered so much you can still feel the exact temperature of that day. And here's the terrible part. You already know it is over. You know, intellectually, with complete certainty, that you cannot change what happened, that the moment is sealed, that no amount of mental replay will rewrite the ending. And still, you go back. His name was Daniel, 34 years old, working a late shift in a glass tower office in downtown Chicago, fluorescent lights humming above an empty cubicle floor at 6 p.m., everyone else already gone. He had a cold cup of coffee on his desk and a spreadsheet open on his screen that he had not touched in 40 minutes. Because he was not in that office. He was 7 years back in time, standing in a hospital corridor with gray linoleum floors and the smell of cleaning fluid and stale air, watching his father's door from the end of the hall. Not going in, telling himself he had more time, telling himself tomorrow was soon enough. Tomorrow was not soon enough. 7 years later, Daniel was still in that corridor, still choosing, still reaching for a version of events that the universe had already closed the file on, stamped it, shelved it somewhere he would never reach. He told me, I know I cannot change it, but I cannot stop going back. That is the loop. That is exactly what it is. A loop. But here is the part nobody talks about. The grief loop is not actually about grief. Not entirely. Grief is the honest pain of losing something real. Grief is clean in its own brutal way. It moves. It changes shape. It eventually, slowly, walks you somewhere new. The loop is something else. The loop is a negotiation with a party that is not at the table. When you keep replaying a moment you cannot change, you are not grieving. You are bargaining. You are making the same argument to an empty courtroom, hoping that this time the verdict will come back different. This time you will find the exact sentence, the exact sequence of events that proves it did not have to happen that way. It did. It happened exactly the way it happened. And every hour you spend in that replay is an hour you are handing to a past that is already finished with you. Epictetus said this, a man who was born a slave, who had genuine, irreversible losses, who had every reason to live inside his wounds. He said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Read that slowly. Not, pretend it did not happen. Not, stop feeling what you feel. Not, move on in a week like nothing was real. Make the best use of what is in your power. What is in your power right now, in this moment, the next hour, the next choice, the quality of attention you bring to the person sitting across from you tomorrow, the action you take instead of the replay you run. The past is not in your power. It never was. But you keep spending your power there anyway, like a man pouring water into a cracked bowl, watching it drain, pouring more. Now pay attention. This is the real lesson. The loop does not keep running because you are weak. It keeps running because it feels like control. Replaying feels like doing something. It feels like you are working on the problem. There is a cruel trick your mind plays on you. It convinces you that if you just think about it enough, long enough, with enough detail, you will find the exit. You will find the version of that moment where it goes differently. There is no such version. The exit from the loop is not at the end of the replay. The exit is a door on the sidewall. A door that most people run straight past because they are too focused on watching the same scene again. That door is a single question. Not, what should I have done? That is the loop re-entering through the back window. The question is this: what does surviving this teach me that I can only know because it happened? Not what you wish it had taught you. Not the clean, philosophical answer. The real, unpolished truth. What do you know now, in your bones, that you could not have known any other way? Daniel found his answer sitting in that empty office, under those humming lights, with the city pressing its cold glass face against the window outside. He could not go back to that corridor, but he could do what he had not done then. He could stop assuming tomorrow was guaranteed. He could stop treating the people still in his life like they would always be there, like there was always more time, like presence was something you could defer and reclaim at will. He started leaving work on time, not because a self-help article told him to, because the grief loop had finally cracked open and shown him something useful. He let the loss teach him. He stepped through the side door. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to write down the moment you keep replaying. One moment. Be specific. The place, the time, the exact thing that happened. Then write this underneath it. What do I know now that I could not have known without this? Sit with that question. Do not force an answer. Do not write something that sounds wise. Write what is actually true. Then write one action, one single action, that lives in your power right now, that the lesson from that moment is pointing you toward. Not tomorrow, not someday. One action you can take inside this week. That is how you exit the loop. Not by stopping the replay with willpower, by finding what the replay has been trying to show you, and then moving toward it instead of standing still in the fire. Because the loop loses its grip the moment you use it. But knowing this alone is not enough. Because there is something even more dangerous waiting, something that does not come as pain or replay or regret. It comes dressed as comfort. It comes dressed as rest. And it has been quietly making the most important decisions of your life while you were looking somewhere else. Weapon 5. The identity cage. The story you tell yourself that locks the door. It comes dressed as comfort. It comes dressed as rest. And you have been calling it your personality. This next part might make you uncomfortable. Good. Because what I am about to name is the thing that has been running your life from the shadows. The thing you have defended, protected, and never once questioned. It is the story you tell yourself about who you are. Not who you want to be. Not who you were told you could become. The story that starts with, I am not the kind of person who, or I have always been this way, or that is just how I am. That story, that quiet, settled, comfortable little story, that is the cage. Picture a man named Daniel, 34 years old. He is sitting in a metro car at 7:15 in the morning, one hand gripping a vertical rail, the other holding a phone with a cracked screen. Around him, 50 people stand shoulder to shoulder. Nobody talks. Nobody looks up. The fluorescent light inside the car flickers once, twice, then holds. Daniel has taken this train for 6 years. Same line, same time, same seat if he gets lucky. He has a job he does not hate enough to leave, but does not love enough to feel alive in. He has a co-worker who told him once, almost 2 years ago, that he should apply for the senior position opening up in the creative department. Daniel laughed it off, said something like, that is not really my thing. The co-worker moved on. The position got filled by someone else. The cracked screen on Daniel's phone got worse. He tells himself he is not ambitious. He tells himself he is a steady, reliable, background kind of person. He tells himself he does not need the spotlight. And every morning on that flickering train, he believes it a little more. Here is what nobody talks about. The story was not always there. You were not born with it. Somewhere, someone said something. A teacher, a parent, a room full of people laughing at the wrong moment. And instead of letting that moment pass through you, you built a wall around it. You turned someone else's careless words into a permanent law about your own nature. And now you are enforcing that law on yourself every single day. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He did not mean react in the moment. He meant the reaction you freeze in time, the reaction you fossilize and call your identity. Because when you freeze a reaction, you stop reacting at all. You start just confirming. Every situation that comes to you, you run it through the old story first. Is this the kind of thing a person like me does? No. Good. Move on. But here is the part that cuts deepest. The cage is invisible because it feels like self-knowledge. It feels like wisdom. It feels like you know yourself better than anyone else could. That is the trick. A man who has been in a small room long enough stops noticing the walls. Think about the last time someone offered you something, an opportunity, a new direction, a simple invitation to be different, and you refused without really thinking. You just felt it in your chest, that tightening, that automatic, "No, that is not me." And you called it instinct. You called it knowing yourself. Was it knowing yourself? Or was it knowing the story? There is a difference between a value and a cage. A value is a choice you make again and again because it points towards something real and important to you. A cage is a story that makes the choice for you before you even open your eyes. Daniel never decided he was not ambitious. He never sat down with the full weight of his life and said, "This is what I choose." He absorbed 100 small moments of rejection, of awkwardness, of being overlooked, and he built a story that would protect him from all of them at once. The story worked. He never got rejected again. He also never got anything else. If this is landing somewhere real right now, do one thing for me. Hit subscribe. Not for me. For the version of you that needs to hear this again on a Tuesday night when the old story comes back loud. Now here is the Stoic principle that changes everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." Look things in the face. Know them for what they are. Not what you decided they were at 19. Not what they felt like after the worst year of your life. What they actually are, right now, with the eyes you have today. The cage is not made of iron. It is made of old conclusions. And old conclusions can be reconsidered. That does not mean you have no character. That does not mean you throw out everything you know about yourself and start performing as someone you are not. It means you hold your self-concept loosely enough to ask one honest question. Is this still true? Because you have changed. You just have not updated the story. The person who failed at something 10 years ago is not the same person sitting in front of this screen right now. The person who was too afraid, too young, too raw to try something, that person learned things. That person got harder and softer in different places. That person is not who you were, but the story stayed the same. And so you are living a life sized to fit a person who no longer exists. Tonight, I want you to do one thing. Write down 3 sentences that begin with the words, "I am not the kind of person who." Do not think too hard. Write whatever comes first. Then look at each sentence and ask, when did I decide this? Not when did it become true. When did I decide? Because somewhere, there was a decision, or something that felt like one. And you have been renewing that decision every morning without realizing it. You do not have to tear the story apart tonight. You do not have to perform some dramatic reinvention. You just have to see the cage clearly. Because a cage you can see is one you can choose to step out of. You cannot escape a wall you are calling a window. The loop loses its grip the moment you use it. And the cage loses its power the moment you stop calling it your nature. But there is one more weapon to face. And this one is the quietest of all. It does not shout. It does not hurt. It simply waits, patient as stone, while you hand over your days without ever realizing you are paying. Weapon 6. The friction lie. Why you're waiting for a sign that will never come. Pay close attention to this. It will save you years. It does not shout at you. It does not shake you awake at 3 in the morning. It simply sits there, soft and patient, like a man leaning against a doorframe, arms crossed, watching you almost leave and whispering, "Not yet. The time is not right." That is the friction lie. And you have been listening to it so long, you have started to call it wisdom. Picture the agora on a Thursday morning in Athens. Not the clean marble version they carve into museum walls. The real one. the one that smells of fish and sweat and animal dung baking in the August heat. Merchants screaming prices over each other. A man arguing so hard over the cost of a clay amphora that a vein in his neck looks ready to burst. Children darting between sandaled feet. A dog dragging a piece of bread into the shadow of a column. And in the corner, near the base of the steps that lead to the stoa, there is a young man. His name is Paulos, maybe 22 years old. He has a craft. He carves wood. He has done it since he was 9 years old, sitting beside his father in a cramped workshop near the harbor, breathing in cedar dust until it lived in his lungs like a second heartbeat. Paulos wants to sell his work in the agora. He has wanted this for 3 years. But the stall is not perfect yet, and the season is not quite right, and he does not have the right cart to display the pieces. And his best work, he tells himself, is still coming. It is almost ready. When it arrives, then he will go. When everything lines up. 3 years. He is still watching from the corner. You know what kills a man like Paulos? Not failure. Not the marketplace rejecting his work. Not a bad season or a broken cart. What kills him is the story he builds around waiting. Because waiting, once you dress it in the right clothes, starts to look like preparation. It starts to look like patience. It starts to feel almost noble. And this is where the friction lie does its best work. It does not tell you that you are afraid. Fear would be too honest, too easy to fight. Instead, it gives you reasons. It gives you conditions. It says, when the conditions are met, you will move. And the conditions are always almost met. Always 90% of the way there. But here is the part nobody talks about. The conditions will never be fully met. Because the conditions are not real. They are a moving wall. Every time you get close enough to touch them, they shift 3 steps back. Not because life is cruel. Because your nervous system is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is keeping you inside the perimeter it knows. Anything outside that perimeter reads as danger. Even when the danger is nothing more than the open air of a new beginning. Epictetus said it cleanly. He said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What he meant was this: the event is not the obstacle. Your interpretation of the event is the obstacle. And the friction lie is an interpretation. It is the interpretation that says, the moment is not right, when the truth is, I am afraid to find out what happens if I move. Those are 2 completely different things. And you need to feel the difference in your chest right now. Feel it. Good. Now picture something else. The harbor at Ostia, outside Rome. Dawn. The sky is that particular shade of pink that does not have a name in any language because it does not last long enough to deserve one. A galley is being loaded. Sailors with rope-burned palms and voices like gravel are hauling crates of olive oil and salted fish up a plank that flexes and groans with every step. The captain, a man named Flavius, does not wait for calm seas. He never has. He reads the wind. He checks the hull. He looks at his crew's eyes to see if they are sober enough to work. And then he orders the ropes cast off. Does he know every wave that is coming? No. Does he have a guarantee that the cargo reaches Carthage intact? No. Does he wait on the dock for a sign from the gods that the journey is blessed? No. Because if he waited for that, he would die an old man on a dock that smells of rotting fish and regret, watching other men's ships disappear into the horizon. He moves. And the ocean responds to the moving ship, not to the ship standing still in the harbor. This next part is the real lesson. The friction you feel before you do the hard thing is not a signal to stop. It is not a warning from a higher power. It is not the universe telling you the time is wrong. It is just friction. The ordinary, physical, non-mystical resistance of a thing that has not been done yet. A door that is stiff because it has not been opened in a long time. That is all it is. Seneca wrote, "While we wait for life, life passes." For words at the center of that sentence. Life passes. He was not writing poetry. He was writing a warning. A warning to a man, maybe a man exactly like you, who was brilliant and capable and full of plans and completely frozen by the gap between where he was and where he believed he needed to be before starting. While you are engineering the perfect conditions, the days are being spent. Not saved. Spent. There is no account where unlived days accumulate interest. They are gone. Every one of them that passes while you wait for the sign is gone the same way a coin dropped into the Tiber is gone. But here is where it gets dangerous. The friction lie has one final trick. When you call it out, when you look it in the face and say, "I see what you are doing," it changes clothes. It stops pretending to be wisdom and starts pretending to be humility. It says, "You are not ready. You do not know enough yet. Who are you to do this thing? Wait until you are worthy of it." And that voice sounds so reasonable, so grounded, so honest. It is none of those things. It is the oldest fear in human history wearing a philosopher's robe. You are not waiting because you are humble. You are waiting because the ground beneath the unknown is invisible, and your body reads invisible ground as a cliff edge. So here's what you do. Tonight, not next week. Tonight, take the thing you have been waiting to start. The conversation, the work, the decision, the first step of the thing. Take it and strip it down to its smallest possible version. Not the perfect version, not the finished version, the smallest true version of the first movement. Palos does not need the perfect card and the perfect season and the perfect display. He needs to carry 2 pieces of his best work to the edge of the agora tomorrow morning and set them down on the ground. That is it. The ground. No cart. 2 pieces. Because movement, even small movement, breaks the friction lie's grip. The lie only lives in stillness. It cannot survive contact with action. The moment the ship moves, the dock becomes irrelevant. Write down the smallest true first step. Not the plan, not the strategy, the first physical action, the one that takes less than 5 minutes. And do it before you sleep tonight. Not because it will fix everything, because a ship that is moving can be steered. A ship still in the harbor cannot. The cage loses its power the moment you stop calling it your nature. And the weight loses its power the moment you stop calling it preparation. But knowing this, seeing the lie clearly, is only part of what you need. Because there is something even more dangerous than the lie you tell yourself about waiting. There is the weapon that turns your own time against you, quietly, without you ever noticing the theft is happening. Weapon 7. The Stillness Protocol. How silence becomes your sharpest weapon. Pay close attention to this. It will save you years. Not the silence you are forced into. Not the quiet that falls when everything breaks and the world stops responding to you. A different kind of silence. A chosen one. The kind that most people are so terrified of that they will fill every second, every gap, every empty breath with noise, with scrolling, with other people's voices, just to avoid meeting it. That silence is not emptiness. It is a weapon. Picture the Stoa of Adelos on a hot afternoon in Athens. The stone is the color of dry bone. The Mediterranean sun hits the marble columns and throws sharp, white light across the floor. Merchants are screaming 2 streets over. Someone is being cheated on the price of olive oil. A dog is barking. A child is crying. The agora is alive with the specific madness of 1,000 people all wanting something at the same time. And in the corner of that colonnade, sitting on the flat stone with his back against a column, is a man named Zeno. Not moving, not talking, just sitting with his eyes open, watching the crowd. The students who came to him for the first time expected a performance. They expected a teacher who would boom and gesture and fill the air with answers. Instead, they found a man who let the noise of the world rush past him like river water past a fixed stone. One student asked him once why he spoke so little. Zeno looked at the student for a long moment. Then he said that nature gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. That was it. That was the lesson. But here is the part nobody talks about. Zeno was not quiet because he had nothing to say. He was quiet because he understood something most men never learn. He understood that the mind that is always talking is the mind that is never listening. And the mind that is never listening is blind. It cannot see the situation clearly. It cannot find the true move. It reacts. It does not respond. Seneca wrote it plainly. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Read that again, slowly. What he is saying is this. The voice in your head, the one that never stops, the one narrating every fear and every embarrassment and every worst possible outcome, that voice is not telling you the truth. It is filling the silence with noise. It is a very loud, very convincing liar. And the only way to see through it is to go quiet enough to notice it. There was a Roman commander named Quintus Servilius Scipio. Not a good man in the end, but his story carries a lesson. Before the disaster at Orazio, the one that would kill tens of thousands of Roman soldiers in a single afternoon, officers around him begged for a meeting. They had information. They had read the enemy's position. They had something to say. He would not sit still long enough to hear it. He was always moving, always talking, always issuing orders before the report was finished. His tent was never quiet. His mind was never quiet. He confused movement with intelligence. He confused noise with command. On the day of the battle, he walked his men into a trap that a quiet 10 minutes could have revealed. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is reconnaissance. Now pay attention. This is the real lesson. The stillness protocol is not meditation in the way people sell it with apps and ambient music and instructions to breathe in for 4 counts. It is not about relaxing. The Stoics were not interested in relaxation. They were interested in clarity. The way a commander needs clarity before a decision that men will die for. Marcus Aurelius, who ran an empire while fighting wars and watching people he loved get sick and die, wrote this: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But you cannot realize it while you are drowning in noise. You cannot hear the difference between your actual judgment and your fear when both of them are shouting at the same volume. The silence is where you separate one from the other. And here is where it gets dangerous. Because your whole world is now built to make silence impossible. Not by accident, by design. Every sound, every notification, every autoplay, every scroll, every recommendation engine, every red notification badge is an engineer's deliberate choice to make sure the silence never arrives. Because the people building those systems know something that Zeno knew 3,000 years before them. A quiet mind is a free mind. A quiet mind makes its own decisions. A quiet mind cannot be led by noise into choices that serve someone else. Your attention is the product. The noise is the cage. And most people walk into it every single morning, voluntarily, and lock the door behind them. Your turn now. Here is the action. Specific. No room for interpretation. Tonight, after you finish this, you will take 15 minutes. Not 30. Not an hour. 15 minutes. You will put your phone in another room. Not face down on the table. Another room. You will sit somewhere you normally would not sit still. Not the bed. The floor, a chair, the edge of a table. Somewhere that signals to your body that this is different. You will not play music. You will not put on a podcast. You will sit with whatever comes. And something will come. A thought you have been avoiding. A name. A regret. A fear that has been waiting in the waiting room of your attention for weeks. Sitting quietly with its number in its hand. Let it speak. Do not fix it. Do not solve it. Just let it move through the room of your mind. That is the reconnaissance. That is the still soldier reading the enemy's position before the order is given. Write down one thing that surfaces. One sentence. Whatever it is. Not to solve it. To see it clearly in daylight instead of letting it move in the dark. Zeno sat in that colonnade and watched the crowd and understood the crowd in ways no one shouting back at it could. Not because he was distant. Because he was present enough and quiet enough to actually see. A ship that is moving can be steered, and a mind that is quiet can be aimed. But none of this matters, none of it, if the thing you are steering toward is built on the wrong foundation. Because there is a belief you are carrying right now, probably without knowing you are carrying it, that is heavier than any fear and louder than any noise. And it is the one that has been costing you more than all the others combined. The new you, the person who walks out of this video different. You came here because something was wrong. Maybe you did not say it that way. Maybe you told yourself you were just watching a video. Maybe you clicked because the title was interesting, or because it was late, and the silence in your apartment was louder than you could stand. But something brought you here. And that something has a name, even if you have not said it out loud yet. You were losing time. Years sliding through your fingers like water, and your hands too numb to feel it going. That was the person who pressed play. Now look at where you are standing. You have seen the belief that has been eating your hours from the inside. You have sat in the silence and let something surface. You have faced the thought that has been sitting in the waiting room of your attention with its number in its hand. waiting for you to finally call it in. That is not nothing. That is everything. Because most people will never do that. Most people will close the tab and go back to the scroll. Back to the blue light cutting shadows on their face at 2 a.m. Back to the packed metro car where 50 people stand shoulder to shoulder, all completely alone, all staring at something that gives them nothing back. You did not go back. You stayed. And here's what that means. It does not mean your problems are solved. It does not mean the knot between your shoulder blades is gone, or that the name that still has power over you has lost its grip. It means you have done something most people refuse to do. You looked, clearly, without flinching. Epictetus said it plainly. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Meaning this, the noise was never the enemy. The avoidance was. The 10,000 small retreats from the moment that needed your full attention. The noise outside you was manageable. It was always the noise inside that you were running from. And you stopped running. That is the new you, not a version that has figured everything out. Not someone who has arrived. Someone who has decided to stop pretending the fire is not there and has walked toward it instead of away from it. That person is different. Quietly, dangerously different. The city outside is still the same. The skyscraper glass is still reflecting nothing but more glass. The morning traffic still has its white-knuckle grip on every steering wheel. The fluorescent lights are still humming over someone's empty cubicle right now, casting light on a desk nobody cleaned before they left. None of that changed. But you know something now that you did not know when you pressed play. You know that a mind that is quiet can be aimed. And you have just spent 45 minutes learning how to be quiet enough to aim it. Do not waste that. Do not let the next hour dissolve back into noise and forget that something shifted here. Write the one sentence. Sit in the chair. Let the thought speak. Follow through on the single action you told yourself you would follow through on. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Because the version of you that clicked play was looking for a way out of 10 years of fog. The version of you that walks out of this video has the first real step in their hand. Take it. Subscribe. Share this with someone who is still sitting in the waiting room of their own life, too afraid to call their number. And I will see you in the next one.